Namaste. Welcome, beautiful souls. I thought today, instead of doing a single card reflection, that I would do a complete walkthrough of the three decks that I'll be working with in this series now that I have the third deck in hand. And I don't know how much commenting I will be doing, but I need to do this as part of my own process. So I thought that I would share it with you. And then in the next episode, I will carry on with a discussion of the magician. So left to right, I'll change over in a moment. The deck on the left, which is out of print, is the Arthurian deck that was created by Anna Marie Ferguson, legend, the Arthurian Tarot. And then in the center is the Arthurian deck by Claire Duval. And this one is available. And on the far right is a deck that has been around for, I'm going to say, 25 years. I believe the copy I have is a 25th anniversary edition. And this is the Arthurian Tarot by Kathleen and John Matthews. And the authors remind us all quests begin with a question. Why are things like this? This is a variation on the famous Grail question: whom does the Grail serve? This inquisitiveness is the hallmark of the seeker, who is not content to let imbalances remain unchallenged. And what a brilliant way to reflect on the Fool. We venture out because we are not satisfied that life is serving us in its fullest potential. The Hallow Seeker is impelled by a deep urgency to know and experience, to find the world's healing, and to seek for a personal direction. The path is both journey and goal. Very warm welcome to all of you. If you're new to my channel, my name is Sadhana, and thank you so much for joining me. So again, left to right, this is Legend, the Arthurian Tarot, the Tarot Arthurian, and the Arthurian Tarot. So this is the Matthews deck, this is the Ferguson deck, and in the center is the newest of the three by Claire Duval, illustrated by the familiar Arthurian. I had an opportunity to glance through the guidebook for my new deck, and Percival was also mentioned in this particular story. And I'm really looking forward to working with all of these decks. And as I mentioned in the last episode, Merlin is featured as the Fool in this deck in the center, and you can see Merlin as the magician in both decks, left and right. Whereas we have Morgana, I believe, here as the magician. Nimue, La Grande Prêtresse, and Lady of the Lake. Illustrations in the Matthews deck are by Miranda Gray, L'Impératrice, and Guinevere, both left and right. King Arthur. And as I haven't worked a lot with any of these decks, I may not be able to name the characters that are not named on the keywords, but named in the guidebooks. Taliesin. And in the Duval deck, this is Blaise. And I look at this quite fondly. It reminds me of the Merlin TV series and the character of Gaius, upon whom that character was based. Gaius was based on Blaise. Who is your favorite couple in the Arthurian tales? I am hoping that gradually through this series I will be able to learn some of the Welsh pronunciation, at least make an attempt at it. And you can see here we have strength, justice, and justice, I believe. This was one of my favorite cards when Arthurian pre-released some of the paintings for this deck. I think it's just beautiful. Do you have a favorite book or movie or television series based upon these tales? So, where in the Matthews deck we had Lady of the Lake as the High Priestess, Lady of the Lake is here as Justice. And so I will weave those threads together when I get to that card, those cards. And common theme here for the Hanged One, the Wounded King, the Fisher King, and Castle Perilous. And death being such an important theme in these tales, I think we'll be able to dive deeply into this particular card. The Cauldron. And in the center we have Merlin again. An interesting contrast with Cernunnos on one side, perhaps in the center, and then we have the Green Knight on the far right. Not the Green Man, the Green Knight. This is one of my favorite cards in this particular deck. I love the way the dragons have been colored. One of you asked about resources, and I'm not sure that I can recommend any at this point. I have watched a few videos, I've read a few PDFs, and I'll try to collate some together for you and paste those in the description box under these videos. It may take me a little bit of time to do that. All right, so this is the Star. We have the Fire Drake. Fortunately, the deck on the right, as the one in the center, a little bit less so. We do have locations and characters that are named. Beautiful moon cards. And when we get to this card, I will talk a little bit about the poppies and the back of the deck in the center too. Beautiful painting with Lou emerging through the standing stone circle. Avalon, Judgment, and the Sleeping Lord. Okay, so that's it for the majors. For the suit of wands, we have spears in both the deck left and right, and béton in the center. For those of you that are fans of decks such as the Spacious Tarot, the minors in this particular deck will really appeal, positioning yourself in the landscape. And the only deck that names characters and scenes in every single card is Legend the Arthurian Tarot, the one on the left, the one that inspired this series. In the deck in the center and on the right, sometimes the setting or the character is named, but not always. Often it's a more generic concept. And like all deck deep dives, in this case, multi-deck deep dives, I will weave the story where the characters appear among different cards. And also, I really look forward to expanding my familiar interpretations of many of these cards. You may already get a feeling of which deck or decks are sticking most closely to familiar Waite-Smith interpretations. And I would say that none of these decks is based in Golden Dawn symbology, zodiacal correspondences. Though, if it does come up, I will endeavor to share my observations. Not likely today, but when we're looking at individual cards or combinations of cards. Both the deck left and right are very green. There's no apparent fire theme that's showing through in the suits. This one actually does remind me of the Spacious Tarot. Nine of Wands and Spear 10. The court cards are set up quite differently in each of these decks. For the pages, we have an animal in Legend the Arthurian, Damoiselle in the center, and a maiden on the right. I absolutely love this card in this deck. It reminds me of the Star card in the Slow Tarot. And if you're not familiar with Tarot Arthurian, the queens and the kings are a diptych. Is that the right word? Um, so they are a painting that joins together. Some of them interacting and others not so much. And it's really quite something how the energy of the decks is quite similar in some cards. And I personally hope to do some deep journaling about my own Grail quest through this experience of studying these cards. And if you missed the first episode, one of the things that I said about the color palette in this deck was it reminds me of a sheer curtain or a veil that may be over the painting, almost turning these stories into dreams, not quite in focus. Some of the settings in the minors remind me a lot of the Wildwood Tarot. I also want to invite you and I encourage you to find your own story in these cards as well too. The archetype in these cards is your story too. This card, particularly the one in the center, reminds me a lot of the Nine of Swords in the Marielle. The Grail Maiden. The animal for the Page of Cups is the salmon. And this is where Percival comes in this particular deck. And in the deck in the center, the Queen of Cups looks to the left towards the King. They're both forward facing, but she glances to her right. King of Cups and the Grail King. It's a very poignant scene here on the left with the Fisher King. Assuming the healed Fisher King. And in all of these decks, swords is swords. I need to sit and think about the cards that have more color, what that significance might bring. And it's funny, the Two of Swords in the card in the center reminds me of the Queen of Swords in the Marielle. The eyes of the Queen are Huan and Muin. Beautiful scenery with the red maple. We have the fire and wasteland. These are powerful paintings. Almost see the Gaian tarot here. Looks like a familiar card too in a number of different decks. Okay, Seven of Swords. So here's where we have the sword and the stone in this deck. Oh, and maybe as well too on the right. Lots of tales to tell. It's funny, when I saw the Nine of Spears in a couple of these decks, I was thinking I'd already seen the Nine of Swords. Battle of Camlan. Thinking about this, I'm going to compare the animals in this deck with the Wildwood just to see if any of them cross over. And in all of these decks, the Knight of Swords is going to the right as we look at it, which whereas in a Waite Smith deck, the Knight of Swords chases left. So I would say for the most part, all of these decks are very loosely connected to the Waite-Smith Tarot. Queen of Swords. This is my favorite King Queen in this deck, playing chess. And for the suit of Pentacles, we have shields, denier, and stone. This is a favorite painting. Amazing how similar these two cards are, with the water and the rocks. Stone 3. This is Percival's mother weaving the tunic that she created for his journey when he left home to seek his knighthood. And this will be familiar to some of you that have the Wildwood Tarot. Who knows, maybe I'll weave in some cards from that deck as well too. 4 of Shields, coins, and stone. This really is the wasteland in all of these cards. Seven of Shields here is Castle of Wonders. And a break in the wall. Ooh, I can't wait to read all these stories. Reread. Beautiful painting on the left. Amazing forest scene here. Almost like the animals have come in circle, gathering at a special time. A time of healing, something energetically going on in the earth. 10 of Earth. Here is the badger for this suit. In Le Tarot Arthurian, the knights have such a beautiful relationship with the horses. Beautiful painting of Igraine. And do you want to see this one? Both sitting stately upon their thrones. And fitting that we end with Igraine and Uther in the deck on the left. At least some of these stories I'm familiar with. Okay, so there you have it. 3 Arthurian decks. Do you have any of them? Have you been done readings with any of them? Let me know, because I'm really curious about your opinions and how you have worked with them. Some of you have mentioned that you are going through the workbook with the Matthews deck, which is amazing. There is a guided journey, a whole year-long project that comes with the deck on the right, so that's kind of fun. And if you're doing that, I can't wait to hear about your experiences. And I will see you in the next episode, where I will share some stories and discuss the Magician card. Namaste.